Welcome to the FedLife podcast with Dan Sipe from Serving Those Who Serve. In this podcast, Dan draws from years of financial experience to help federal employees overcome challenges that every Fed can relate to. Join us for this journey as we reach, teach, and serve to help you make the right financial decisions. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the FedLife podcast. I am your host, Dan Sipe, as you probably already know, or if you're just tuning in for the first time, allow me to introduce myself. Additionally, I'm the branch manager here at Serving Those Who Serve and Sipe and Associates, and I will begin, as I always do, by saying thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and above all, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for your service to me. You truly are the glue that holds everything together. You do not hear that enough. You will always hear it here. Ed Zurndorfer is back with us again. The guru is here as part of our ongoing mission to, say it with me, folks, reach, teach, and serve you. At the outset, I need to say the opinions of our guest, Ed Zurndorfer, are not the opinions of Raymond James of Serving Those Who Serve. This podcast is presented for information only and not intended to be taken as advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. And if you don't have a personal advisor, hit us up at Serving Those Who Serve. We will help you any way we can. Once again, we will follow Ed's FedZone articles. But wait, there's yet another way to learn from Ed, and that is the weekly serving. Every week we deliver the best of Ed, Jennifer Meyer, Benefits Ben directly to your inbox, so don't miss out. See our subscription information on your YouTube page for that podcast. Okay, folks, I'm really excited. I was fairly giddy when I was typing this one up. Today, we are covering everyone's favorite topic, and that is COLA, cost of living adjustment. And this year, we have some big ones. So before we dive in on this, I want to urge everyone to head over to the FedZone. That's at fed-zone.com for Ed's actual article, because he has an awesome table and a full page of calculation examples. So that's really going to help you. So Ed, you kicked things off with the CSRS COLA. So why don't you tell us what that number is and how it was calculated?
Yes, Dan, before we actually talk about what the COLA is, I want to make a very important distinction about what the COLA is versus a pay raise.
Yes.
Federal employees get pay increases, usually every year. Mm-hmm. They're determined by the president makes a recommendation, Congress goes along with it, and they get a pay raise that takes effect on the first day of every new leave year. For example, The 2023 leave year starts actually on January 1st, 2023, and federal employees are supposed to get a across the board 4.6% pay increase. That's a pay increase. Now, a COLA, on the other hand, a cost of living adjustment, is only for retirees. Congress does not set the COLA. We're going to explain who sets the COLA, how the COLA is determined. But I just want to make that distinction. You do not get a COLA when you're in federal service. You get a COLA after you have retired from federal service. And the CSRS COLA, which covers both CSRS retirees or annuitants and serves offset annuitants, is the same COLA that Social Security beneficiaries receive. Social Security beneficiaries include those who are getting retirement benefits and those who are getting disability benefits. I happen to be a CSRS annuitant. I'm also currently receiving Social Security. So come this January 1st, I'm going to find a COLA both in my CSRS annuity and in my Social Security monthly retirement benefit, effective January 1st.
Gotcha.
And the COLA is based on the change in the consumer price index for urban wage earners. Now, Dan, they're different. This is a CPI for short, CPI, Consumer Price Index. There are different types of CPIs, but in this case, it is the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners. It's a little ironic. We're talking about the increase in cost for those individuals who work in urban areas, not retirees. I'm saying that because there is another CPI -E, which stands for elderly. That's based on how retired people spend their money. Don't ask me why they did that, but all I can say is that usually the CPI E is a little more than the CPI-W. That is a consumer price index for urban wage workers. And the rule is this, Dan, that whatever Social Security recipients are receiving in their COLA based on the CPI-W, so do CSRS and FERS offset annuitants. And who determines that CPI-W? The Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS for short. And now how does BLS calculate it? What they're doing is that the BLS is calculating the change in the CPI-W from one year to the next. In particular, every month of the year, BLS is calculating what the CPI-W is every month of the year. So if we take the months of July, August, and September, that constitutes the third quarter of the year, and average the CPI-W for those 3 months, and then the following year do the same averaging. The change in the CPI and that average CPI-W from the third quarter of one year to the third quarter of the next year will determine what the CSRS COLA is. That's how they calculate the CPI, the COLA from one year to the next. For example, the 2023 COLA for Social Security beneficiaries and CSRS annuitants was based in a change to CPI-W from the third quarter of 2021 to the third quarter of 2022. And it happened to be, Dan, 8.7%. That is the highest COLA in 40 years.
Sure.
So that's how what the COLA is and how it's determined.
Wow. That's good news and bad news.
It's good news in the sense that, yeah, it's a lot, but understand, Dan, that our inflation now is running about 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important that we keep up with inflation, but we're keeping up inflation, but everything's going up in cost. And it's nice to know that Social Security recipients and federal retirees are getting, are getting something that's hopefully keeping up with the cost of living, because understand that retirees are basically on a fixed income.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Ed, in your article, you give us two examples. One you called Jason, who retired in 2017, and Geraldine, who retired in February of 2022. Do you care to comment on the differences to those two examples that you gave?
Yes, it gets down to the rule as far as when does a CSRS or service offset annuitant get his or her first COLA.
Sure.
And the rule is when a CSRS or service offset annuitant retires, it makes no difference at what age they retire. They are eligible to receive their first COLA effective January 1st, following the year that they retire. However, if they were not retired for a full 12 months of that first year, then their COLA will be prorated according to the number of months they actually were retired in that first year. Thereafter, they get full COLAs. So, for example, I have a table in that column in that column I wrote, and let's suppose somebody retired during 2022. They retired, for example, on January the 1st, 2022. Their retirement became effective on January the 2nd, 2022. So what we're measuring here, Dan, is how many months during that first year were they actually on the retirement rolls? Better put, how many annuity checks did they receive during that first year?
Gotcha.
If this person retired on January the 2nd, during the 1st, 2022, they received their first annuity check on February the 1st, 2022. And that was the first of 11 annuity checks that they received between January 1st, 2022 and December 31st, 2022. Therefore, since they got 11 checks, they are eligible for 11/12 of that first year COLA, that first year COLA, which is 8.7%. So in the column I wrote, I went to the calculation. I took 11/12 of 8.7%, which is the full COLA. So that individual will get, effective January 1st, 2023, a COLA of 8%. That's 11/12 of 8.7%. Now that's true all the way through the year 2022. So let's say somebody is going to retired on October 31st, 2022. Their retirement became effective on November 1st, 2022, and they received their one and only annuity check for 2022 on December 1st. December 1st, 2022, and they're only going to get 1/12 of the full COLA. So 1/12 of 8.7% is 0.7%. It's all shown in that table that I have in that column. So they're only going to get 0.7% of a COLA for 2023, but every year thereafter, Dan, they'll get a full COLA.
Gotcha.
A full COLA. So it's
Gotcha.
important to understand that CSRS and FERS offset annuitants, depending on what time of the year they retire, will determine how much of that first year COLA they're going to get. But
Sure.
every year thereafter, they get a full COLA.
No, that makes sense. And Ed, I got to tell you, I love the examples that you put in these things because it makes it so accessible and so much easier to understand. And I'm sure our feds feel the same way. Now, the FERS COLA is a little bit different. So walk us through that.
Okay. FERS COLA is a little bit different, Dan, because first of all, it's calculated a little bit differently. Yes, the FERS COLA is still based on the CPI-W, but here's the rule. This was set up almost like 35 years ago when FERS started. That if the CPI-W, the Social Security COLA and the CSRS offset COLA is more than 3%, then the FERS COLA will be reduced by exactly 1%. So this is what's going to happen this coming January. The CSRS COLA is 8.7%. That's over 3%. So therefore, the FERS COLA will be exactly 1% less, or 7.7%.
Gotcha.
If the CSRS COLA is between 2 and 3%, like it was, I think, about 4 years ago, I got a 2.3% COLA. Then the FERS COLA is reduced down to 2%.
Gotcha.
If the CSRS COLA is less than 2%, then the FERS COLA will be the same amount. So, for example, I believe it was in 2019, I got a 1.6% COLA, and so did all the FERS annuitants over the age of 62. We're going to explain that not all FERS annuitants get COLAs. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, in a few moments.
Oh yeah. Okay, so the important thing here is we've gone through and it was certainly enjoyable, gone through a long stretch of pretty tame inflation. So the two COLAs would have been a lot closer together, but I think it is important to state that there are certainly not that many places that even have defined benefit pensions, but further, ones that will at least make an effort to keep up with inflation. So yes, getting the full CPI is great, but CPI -1 is not a terrible thing either. So I want to jump to this next part because in our planning processes, within our practice, we see people missing this in their planning all the time. So when they come to us and they have an idea for when they want to retire, and we start asking them some questions, they never consider this. And that is, if somebody retired before age 62, not due to disability or under special provisions, they're not going to get a COLA until 62, right?
That's exactly right, Dan. And I cannot agree with you more. You know, Dan, the game has changed now. Like you said, we have lived through a relatively tame period of inflation. Now, inflation is roaring its ugly head. It's going to be, I think it's going to be around for a while. And it's sort of a warning to those federal employees under FERS, most of them are, who are thinking about retiring, let's say within the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
That hold on here. Understand that if you retire before age 62, you could retire with 30 years of service at your minimum retirement age, your MRA. You could retire at age 60 with 20 years of service. Just heads up, you're getting no COLA until you reach 62 years old.
Sure. You know, so you think about that, you know, somebody goes, say at 57, because there's a whole lot of feds, that's going to be their date. That's 5 years.
That's
That's 5 years. And, you know, 1% inflation, that's annoying. At 6 or more, you know, and here's another thing. You bring up the annuity supplement. There's no COLAs there either.
That's right. Those FERS employees who retire under, you know, a regular retirement, not a what's called MRA plus 10 and MRA plus 20. That's a reduced retirement in which you could retire with fewer than 30 years of service at your MRA. You're going to take a reduction in your annuity, and you do not get an annuity supplement. Also, you're not going to get any cost of living adjustment.
Sure.
For at least 5 years. I have a client, Dan. I do her taxes, and she retired on April the 30th, 2021, at the age of 60 under the MRA plus 10 arrangement. She had 17 years of service. It was a good time at that time in the market. Also, inflation had not started to really creep up at that time, and she decided to retire. Understand, under the MRA plus 10, if you retire before age 62, you're going to take a permanent reduction in your annuity.
Ouch.
She had a 10% reduction, no COLA, and then inflation is starting to rear its ugly head. So over the past year, she's calling me up. What am I going to do? I'm losing money. You know what I said to her, Dan? You got to go back to work. I'm serious.
No, I know you're serious.
She said, here, the value of my TSP account's going down 25%. I'm not getting an annuity supplement. I'm too young for Social Security. Even then, I don't want to take Social Security at 62 because I'll take a reduction at 2. She's in good health. I said, you think you're going to make it financially over the next 30, 40 years? She said, I'm wondering. I said, therefore, do the next best thing. Go back to work and start contributing to IRAs and leave your TSP alone. Build up your Social Security account to make up for the problem here. She's crying. I don't want to go back to work. I said, you're going to have to. The point being, if you're a FERS employee, you really have to think about this. 100%. It's a different ball game now with inflation.
100%. You know, folks, this is why, you know, picking a realistic retirement age is just so important. So many times people get locked in on that MRA, and it sounds great, but you neglect things like inflation. You know, for example, Ed, I'm sure you've seen this. I certainly hope this doesn't happen in this way to any of our listeners. But if one of our hardworking feds retired last year at age 57 and now has a 2 years of above average inflation and no COLAs, they're actually taking a pay cut. You know, so folks, I know COLAs are supposed to be happy. Yay. And I know I'm killing the joy here on the big COLAs for retirees, but we always want to watch out for our feds still in service. So please share this podcast with everybody you know, because this is an important thing for somebody to bake into their thinking process about when they're going to retire. If we look back to, last 10 years, 2012 difference was, 2.1%, 2013, 1.5, 2014, 1.6, 2015, 0.1, 2016, 1.3, 2017, 2.1, 2018, 2.4, 2019, 1.8, 2020, 1.2, and then 4.7 and 8.6. That is a jolt. So sorry, Ed, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but
that's exactly what I think the listeners have to hear. And we haven't talked about the costs of healthcare costs. If you,
Sure.
for 2023, the average federal health benefits premium, employees and retirees are going to be paying on average 7.2% more out of their pocket to pay for their health insurance. The highest increase in 10 years. That's going to eat into their income, into their net income as well.
Sure.
So it's so important. And I'd like to make a plug again. I know I always ask you to
go for it.
Especially if you're a FERS employee, you have to attend a FERS benefits webinar. We hold them every month. Go to www.stwserve.com and sign up. It's free. You'll get the information you need to know before you decide to retire, one of the things. I cannot say that enough, Dan.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, let me get us back on track, Ed, because you're very generous, and let me rant there a little bit. So let's go to your FERS examples. You have Sherry and Ivan. So what should we note from those examples for our listeners? And folks, be sure to go to the Fed Zone and read those. But Ed, what should we note from that?
All right, Dan, if you don't mind, I'd like to run to the examples because I want to make a point here. I want to make a point here that many federal employees are not aware of. And I just want to say something else. When it comes tax time, they're retired and they go to their accountant, and their accountant wants to know how much of the annuity is taxable, especially if they are a survivor annuity. I want to point out some very important things here, so that the annuitant, and that's true also for CSRS, is not going to it won't be shocked by the results of how much of their annuity is actually taxable. So let's run to the example first with Sherry. Mm-hmm. Sherry retired from federal service in 2021 as a FERS employee with 30 years of service. She retired at age 57, Dan. Okay.
Gotcha.
Which is a year after her minimum retirement age. So in other words, Dan, Sherry retired on a regular, non-reduced, full retirement. Mm-hmm. And Sherry's also not giving a survivor annuity. She's single, so her starting FERS annuity was $38,500. That's how she started off. That's how much she got per year, $38,500, starting in the year 2021. Okay, and she also got a FERS annuity supplement, the retirement annuity supplement, equal to $13,000. Please note the following, Dan. That Sherry, because she retired at age 57, she's not eligible for her first COLA in her FERS annuity for 5 years.
Yep.
She has to wait till age 62. And the annuity supplement, her FERS annuity supplement, never gets a COLA. It's a fixed amount for all 5 years. It stops at age 62. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So in 2027, Sherry is due to get her first COLA, because at that time she'll be 62 years old. Okay. Mm-hmm. So she's basically on a fixed income here. Fixed income.
Yep.
And she's going to have expenses like healthcare costs are going to go up, and she has the federal employee health insurance as well as other things. Now, if she has problems meeting her budget, she can draw from her traditional TSB, no penalty because she's over 55. Okay. So please note that.
Gotcha.
Okay. The next example, Ivan retired from federal service in September 2020, and he was age 60. He had 20 years of service. He retired under a regular, normal retirement with 20 years of service at age 60. No reduction in his annuity. He became age 60 on August the 27th, 2020. Ivan is also not giving a survivor annuity. When he retired, Ivan's starting FERS annuity was $23,000.
Gotcha.
And his FERS retirement annuity supplement was $12,000. This is all per year. The $23,000 FERS annuity and the $12,000 FERS annuity supplement continued during 2021 and part of 2022 until August 2022, at which time the FERS annuity supplement stopped. The FERS annuity supplement stops the month a FERS annuitant becomes age 62. Okay. Now note that since Ivan became age 62 on August the 27th, 2022, that was his 62nd birthday, he will be eligible for his first COLA on January 1st, 2023, because the rule is this, that a FERS employee retires before age 62 gets no COLA until January 1st following the year that they become age 62.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's that additional delay to it as well.
That's correct.
Those are great points, Ed. And folks, these are little things that can really trip you up. And as a matter of fact, I want to rephrase that. These are the big things that can really trip you up, because it's just not made clear in a lot of the material. And so when you start planning in your mind and saying, oh, 57, that sounds great. It can be. And I'm not saying that, please, I am not trying to say to people, you can't go out at minimum retirement age. You have to plan accordingly. So, for example, you need to make sure that you're doing the right things and making the right decisions with your TSP so that is a robust amount that can close gaps like no COLAs if we're in an inflationary period and things like that. So, okay, Ed, you round out the article with 4 additional points. I'd like to talk about those a little bit.
Okay.
The first has to do with the FERS retiree who has reached age 62 but would be prorated based on the month of retirement. And you kind of touched on that, at the end of your examples, but go through that again.
Okay. So a FERS employee retires before 62, gets no COLA until they turn 62. And that first year COLA will be prorated according to the number of months during the year that FERS annuitant was actually age 62. So, for example, in the case of Ivan turned, as you remember, became age 62 in August 2022. So, how many months during 2022, or put in another way, how many annuity checks would Ivan be receiving between the month he turned 62 and the end of 2022? So that would be a check for September, October, November, December. That's 4 checks. So Ivan would receive 4/12 of the full COLA. So FERS annuitants would be getting a 7.7% COLA for 2022 2023, effective January 1st, 2023. So Ivan would get 4/12 of that, 1/3 of the full COLA, Okay. But every
Gotcha.
year thereafter, Ivan would get the full COLA because he would have been, over age 62, obviously, for more than, for during that for the rest of his life. Okay.
Gotcha.
So that would be for the year that someone who retires before age 62. At FERS, now if a FERS employee retires after age 62, then there would not be they would get their first COLA the year after they retire, and that would not be prorated, by the way. That's not prorated.
Gotcha. And point 2 talks about FERS, but this I think pertains to CSRS as well. And that is, if you give a survivor annuity, your COLA is going to be on the gross amount before the reduction for survivorship, correct?
Yes, Dan. And I'd like to run through an example here to fully understand what's going on, because I'm putting on my tax hat, if you don't mind. I have a hat here. It says taxes only. Okay.
I'm sure you do.
Okay. And let's go back, and we didn't do the example with a CSRS. So let me do those two examples, if you don't mind, right now. So back to CSRS, we have someone named Jason. Now, Jason retired from federal service on January the 3rd, 2017, a CSRS covered employee. His starting CSRS gross annuity, starting February 1st, 2017, was $85,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Jason is giving the maximum CSRS survivor annuity benefit, which is 55%, to his wife, Alice.
Got it.
The cost to Jason to give a full spousal CSRS survivor annuity benefit, because understand, when you give a survivor benefit to anybody, in this case a spouse, you have to pay for it. How do you pay for it? Through a reduction in your gross annuity, Dan. Your gross annuity is going to be reduced every year in order to give a survivor annuity benefit to anybody, in this case a spouse. So the cost to Jason to give a full spousal survivor annuity benefit to his wife, Alice, is a flat 10%. 10% of what? His starting gross annuity of $85,000.
Gotcha.
So I'll say it slow. His starting gross annuity is $85,000. If we take 10% of $85,000, we come up with $8,500. So now, in that first year, Dan, this is the year 2017, Jason's going to receive for that year, his gross annuity was $85,000, less $8,500. That nets him $76,500. What I did was I took the gross annuity less the cost of the full survivor annuity benefit equals the net annuity. Note two things here, Dan. That the net annuity is the part that is taxable, federal and in most states, state taxable. It's not the gross annuity. In other words, Jason is not paying tax on the cost to give a survivor annuity.
Makes sense.
If Jason dies during that first year of retirement, God forbid, then his wife, Alice, is going to get the maximum survivor benefit of 55%. 55% of Jason's gross annuity, which was $85,000, not the net annuity. And what is taxable is the 55% of the $85,000, whatever that is. That is what's taxable to the survivor annuitant.
Gotcha.
So now, another plug here, Dan.
Plug
to
away.
Better understand what's going on here tax-wise, please attend one of our monthly understanding taxation of federal retirement benefits. We have this every month, Dan.
Yep.
We talk about this. But we're returning to COLAs here.
Yep.
Let's hope and pray to dear God, Jason's not going to die during the first year of retirement. Here it is 5 years later. Jason's still alive. Thank goodness. It is now January 1st, 2022. And Jason has received 5 years worth of COLAs. Those COLAs are applied to the original 85,000 compounded over time.
Yep.
And those COLAs are not applied to the cost of giving a survivor benefit. In other words, here it is, January 1st, 2022, January 1st, 2023. I calculated with all the COLAs that he's gotten that his gross annuity effective January 1st, 2023 is now all the way up to $97,286. It's gone from 85,000 gross to 97,286 gross. And Alice is still alive. The cost of getting a survivor benefit remains at $8,500.
Yep.
Now, Dan, I know you have a lot of experience in finance, in financial planning and finances. Do you think this is a good deal?
I think it's a
parties
phenomenal
involved.
I've been twitching in my chair here. I think it's a phenomenal deal, Ed. And you know, brother, I can't believe we missed this last month when we were talking about Pension Max, because you know, and this drives me nuts. I have seen my share of seminars put on by other organizations, and I have absolutely heard them say that the cost goes up with the COLAs, and that's wrong, wrong, wrong.
That hurts me. That hurts me, Dan.
Yes, me too. Your cost goes down with the COLAs. The COLA makes it a little bit cheaper every year.
That's so upsetting.
Yes, me too. Me too. But hey, here's the good news, Ed. You know, almost 500,000 people come to our website. And if God spares me and keeps me around, I want that to get to 1 million, and then eventually 2.2 million. So then every Fed can come here, and whether they get it from the Fed Zone or from our webinars or from the podcasts, and who knows, you know, next year we may be rolling out videos. You never know what this crazy mind of mine is going to do, but we are going to get the word out, brother. We are going to do that. But I have heard that, and my brain cries when I hear that. So
one more plug, Dan. One more
please plug away.
We have a survivor benefits webinar.
Yes, we do.
Every other month, we run what's called Understanding Survivor Benefits. We talk about this, by the way.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Our next one will be, you know, we hold them every other month. Please go to www.stwserv.com, and they're free. You can sign up as many times as you want. Spread the word. The next one will be in December.
Yep. Okay, so we're on a little bit of a string of good news here. So, you know, good news that the COLA is on the gross amount when you give a survivor annuity. Up next, for number 3, you touched on that a Fed on disability retirement will get a COLA even before 62.
That is correct, Dan. So FERS annuitants who retire under what's called FERS disability retirement are eligible for a FERS COLA at any age. Also, those FERS, those individuals, let's say employees who unfortunately die in service, and at the time they die in service, they had at least 10 years of service. Their spouses are entitled to a full FERS survivor annuity benefit. No matter what their age is, they get a COLA too.
Yes. Yep. Okay. And our final point here, so we're stacking good news here, is about our dedicated Feds who are in special provisions when it comes to COLAs. Give them their good news, Ed.
All right, let's just explain who are special provision employees, because they're out there and they do a great job protecting our country, fighting fires. Air traffic controllers go to the airport and say thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Special provision employees include law enforcement officers, firefighters, or air traffic controllers. They could retire with 25 years of service at any age. They could retire at age 50 with a minimum 20 years of service. They are eligible to get COLAs no matter what age they retire. And they believe me, they deserve it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And folks, I want to keep this on an up note because COLAs are good news. And, inflation isn't great, but one of the things that I've said throughout my career is that federal service is back-end loaded. So the fact, and you earn this, folks, you earn this. The fact that you have a defined benefit pension and you have a defined benefit pension that is responding to cost of living adjustments. And, I just don't want to get tripped up, on whether CSRS is full CPI and FERS is CPI -1 at the higher levels. They're both responding. And most people don't have that. So that is just a great thing to have at the end of your career. You just need to know how all the pieces work. And that's why we do what we do. That's why the website exists. There's tons of stuff that's put up in there. You can come in the middle of the night, read it, slip out. I won't even know you're there. Okay. So if it helps you, that's great. If listening to this helps you, that's great. If attending our webinars, and we have some folks that have attended 50 of them, that's awesome. We love super fans. If that helps you do it, that's great. We're happy to be here to do that. And Ed, once again, I'm going to thank you for what you do with us and for what you do with the federal community, especially how you help our team learn and grow. Very grateful for that.
My pleasure, Dan. It's always great to know that we are helping the people out there, because there is definitely a need for help, and we're here to educate and to make sure that employees make the right decisions at the right time.
Sure, 100%. Well, folks, that's a wrap. We are serving those who serve. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on the YouTube channel or Spotify. Please remember to share it with your friends, strangers, enemies. Yeah, even on the COLA, especially something like this on the COLAs. This is an important one. I want you to think of an enemy and share it with them. That's important. Check us out on Twitter and LinkedIn. Don't forget our live webinars every week. Just go to the Serving Those Who Serve website, stwserve.com. You will see that webinar button. Click it. It'll take you right to the landing page. The guru will come to you as we work to teach you where you are, reach you where you are, serve you where you are. Sign up for one, sign up for all. Share the page with your friends. I promise you they will thank you. Be sure to read Ed every week in the Fed Zone, stwserve.com or fed-zone.com. And don't forget, while you're there, sign up for the weekly serving. Then we'll be pushing the great stuff out to you every single week. So for Ed Zurndorfer, the crew at Serving Those Who Serve, and me, Dan Sipe, I will sign off as I always do by saying good luck, Godspeed, and above all, it's your Fed life. Make it a great one because you deserve it. Stay well, everybody. We are out.
Thank you for listening to the FedLife podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Serving Those Who Serve or Raymond James. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors Incorporated. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services.
Raymond James is not affiliated and does not endorse the opinions or services of any of the quoted professionals or their respective firms. Any opinions are those of Dan Sipe and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. This case study is for illustrative purposes only. Individual cases will vary. Raymond James is not affiliated with and does not endorse the opinions or services of the quoted professionals or their respective organizations.
Neither Raymond James Financial Services nor any Raymond James financial advisor renders advice on tax issues. These matters should be discussed with the appropriate professional. Investing involves risk, and you may incur a profit or loss regardless of strategy selected, including diversification and asset allocation.